Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the unified European left, we are extremely worried about the current state of freedom of press in Ukraine, in Hungary, and particularly in Turkey. The Turkish government has been exploiting the failed coup attempt on July 15 as an opportunity to silence all oppositional voices in the country, and a key target of the ongoing witch hunt is the press. The number of arrested journalists increased from 30 to 120 in the last 2 months. Most recently, 23 mostly Kurdish and Alevi media outlets were closed down with a government decree, also including the 10OCT TV, which broadcasts cartoons for Kurdish children. So my question is, what is your position on the issue, and do you have any concrete plans to help improve freedom of press in Turkey? Thank you.
Thank you for that question, because it gives me an opportunity to say that I too is very concerned. And this is why we have a lot of work now together with the Turkish authorities on this particular issue and other issues related to terrorism legislation, which actually was on the table before the attempted coup. But after the attempted coup, of course, it has been, we need to speed up the process. And there are other matters also related to how the Turkish authorities are taking on those who were behind the attempted coup. This is, for instance, the reason why I, last week, actually it happened on Thursday, had a meeting with all the most important press organizations in Europe, which are part of the platform which we have established together with them, where they can post alerts on threats against freedom of expression and threats against journalists. And they informed me in particular about the situation in Turkey. I get a lot of important information. What we are doing in concrete terms is the following. As you know, there are a number of judgments from the Court of Human Rights against Turkey, which is related to the fact that they apply their in particular terrorism legislation in such a way that they violate the right of freedom of expression. There are a number of court decisions in this respect. So there has been a process, it's an ongoing process in the Committee of Ministers, which has the responsibility to, collective responsibility to get member states to implement judgment from the court. And the court, normally they say that there has to be an individual measure, which is very often about compensation to the individual whose right has been violated, and then there are general measures which the court speak about, namely to change the legislation or the application of the legislation which has led to the violation of a certain article. So this is what we are dealing with now in the Committee of Ministers, namely, and where the Committee of Ministers have made several decisions. And this is what we are now discussing in a special working group with the Turkish authorities, namely to discuss how they can implement the judgment from the Court of Human Rights, either by changing the application of the current laws, or it might be necessary to change the laws themselves in order to bring all this in conformity with the case law of the Court of Human Rights. And it's, as it has been in the media, I can say that this is, of course, also interesting for the negotiations between the EU and Turkey on the visa liberalization, because the European Union has put demands on Turkey also in this respect. So, but I would like to say in general what is, and then we have very concrete interaction with the Turkish authorities on the measures taken after the attempted coup. We are going through all the decrees that they have issued under the state of emergency. What is important for us is that they put in place judicial safeguards for all those who have been arrested all those who have been investigated, prosecuted, and also for those who have been suspended or has lost their jobs. There has to be judicial safeguard for these people, a due process, a fair process. And what I have reminded the Turkish authorities about is the following, which I would like to say here. Namely, also in a state of emergency, rule of law exists and the European Convention exists. Might be a misunderstanding here that the convention can be suspended. This is not true. One can derogate certain articles, deviate from certain articles in a state of emergency, but all Turks have the right to go to the Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg to complain about wrongdoing by their authorities. And this is important to know, because if we are not able, or if the Turkish authorities are not acting in conformity with the convention and the case law of the court, then the risk is that we get thousands of applications to our court here. There was an information public last week that already nearly 20,000 applications have arrived in the Constitutional Court in Turkey. So if one is not dealing with this in a proper way, then of course many of those will come here. So we have to do everything we can in cooperation between Turkey and us to avoid such a situation. That's what we are doing. And that's why it's so important also to speak about what you said here. Thank you.